Chief Casto, how did you learn that you'd be first acting chief and then interim chief? Who contacted you and what was your reaction?
The first call I got was from the city manager, Georgianne White, and I was just asking, are you willing to do this? And of course the answer is yes. I mean, I'm pretty dutiful. This department's pretty much given me everything that I have. It's been good to me over my entire career since I was, younger than 18. So the answer was yes, anything I can do to help.
And was it always a goal to be in a leadership role?
No, not at all. No. Actually, throughout my career, I never really looked for the next promotion. When an opportunity would arise, I'd take it. But that's one of my beliefs as a leadership tenet is if you're always looking for the next rank or the next promotion, it's hard to make good decisions at the rank that you are. So I kind of have, as the years have gone on, each rank I've kind of just made that decision at game time. Is this something I want to do or not? And have promoted.
Yeah, but look at your rise. You go from officer to sergeant to captain to deputy chief, now to interim chief. Am I missing anything out there?
You missed a lieutenant, I think.
I mean, that's a pretty meteoric rise in your 27-year career. And you didn't really want any of that, or you weren't looking for that.
Well, it's not that I didn't want it. It's just that I don't plan my career around that. Everything at every stage was how can I best perform and serve at the rank or the role that I currently was. When I was an officer, I mean, I loved doing that, but I loved being in the field. And so sergeant was the first step, and having more influence over the people that you care about in the community and your fellow officers is what attracted me for the first promotion. I think I went 13 years as a sergeant before we had a lieutenant promotion, and I said all the way, no, I wasn't going to do it. And then it finally came up, and I thought, again, you get to have more influence over the people that you work with in a positive way and over the community and the relationship of the department and the community.
Now, you're interim chief, but you're still wearing the 2 stars as opposed to the 4 stars. Why is that?
That's just what we're going to do. I mean, this is a temporary role, and obviously all the responsibility comes with it. It is full-time, but it is an interim role, so I think it's just most appropriate.
Right. You still have the full powers and responsibilities as a chief. How do you handle the fallout from the transition from Paco Valderrama to you? How do you, I know there was issues with trust from the union. How do you kind of build back that relationship with the union, with the officers moving forward?
I think it's not just about me, and that's kind of probably a common theme during our conversation today. It's not just about me. This department has a chief, whether it's Chief Valderrama or myself. We're the face, we're the final decision maker. The final responsibility rests on our shoulders, but this is a team effort. I have 3 other deputy chiefs that are amazing. Mark Salazar, who has a brilliant mind when it comes to violent crime. You've got Mike Landon, who is a great decision maker and calm in the eye of the storm. And you have Burke Fair, a great educator, very smart, experienced, and always looking forward to the future. So in essence, the leadership team here is still intact. I may have elevated, Chief Valderrama may be gone, but the same people are making the good decisions. Ultimately, it's my responsibility for how things go in this department.
Do you think there's work the department you have to do to kind of cure the black eye of this transition? I don't want to dwell on the negative news.
Sure.
I mean, that's been covered a lot. But how do you, when the public sees the news, when it makes national news for the wrong reasons, how do you say, hey, we're still here, you can still trust us to do the job?
I think we just keep doing the job. When this was going on, it was pretty distracting, and I just kept telling people, even I ran into Mayor Dyer, there's plenty of work to do. This is a distraction, but there's work to do, and this community doesn't deserve anything less than us focusing on getting the job done, of protecting them and serving the community as best we can. And so that's what we've done. I mean, we'll continue to put out some of our good work. Let's just be honest, we do so much good work every day, there's no way that it can be out to the public. The news doesn't cover a fraction of what we do on a daily basis, and we put some things on social media, but again, there's no way we can cover the good things that our officers do every day and how they're serving the community.
Right. Now, you're the first female police chief in Fresno history. You're probably the first mom, well, you're the first female chief, first mom in Fresno history. Does being a woman, being a mom, give you a different perspective in your leadership role?
I always tried to be pretty balanced. I'm pretty good at seeing both sides of an issue. And I don't know if that comes from being a mom or other experience that I've had, but it is a little bit being like a parent in any leadership role, because the officers need to know that you care about them, but you also have to hold them accountable when things go wrong. Otherwise, we don't maintain the trust of the community. So that's a delicate balance.
Now, there are 3 Castos working in this department. Your husband's Sergeant Steve Casto, and you have a son who works in the department as well?
Yes, he's a new officer.
So what is that like, having a son follow in both his parents' footsteps, but falling in the same career at the same department? What's the benefits? What's kind of the difficulties of something like that?
Yeah, well, it's probably difficult for him. I imagine he's very modest, and I imagine he probably wouldn't prefer to have our last name sometimes. He's his own independent person, and he gets the job done. He's been raised to have a really strong work ethic, and I think it's going to serve him well. He doesn't need our name or me or anybody else to help pave the way for him. He's going to do it on his own.
You must have been pretty proud of when he started.
Yeah, it surprised us. We didn't know that's what direction he was going to go. But again, he's an independent thinker, and it was a decision he made, and he's done nothing but make us proud.
Now, is it hard to start in the same department? Would it maybe be easier if you worked at a different law enforcement agency first?
We never talked about it. I'm not sure what his thoughts were on that. Working here at the Fresno Police Department, there's 3 Castos. My husband, Steve Casto, my son Brendan, and he's working patrol. He got hired here last year as a police officer, and he was a cadet as well. And then my husband also working here as a sergeant.
Right. Now that you're the chief, does that kind of change? Because in theory they'd be under your command. Is there something that's done so to prevent if there's everything, if you have to command them, how does that work out?
Absolutely. There's a provision for that in our policy as well as the city municipal code that if there were any personnel issues to arise, that they have to be handled elsewhere. So it would go directly to another deputy chief and straight to the city manager. It would bypass me altogether.
Right. I know you've been asked this. I've asked you this. But just today, what are your thoughts on applying for the full-time job?
I don't know yet. There's a lot of implications for me. I have to really look at it. It's truly a family decision. It could be a financial decision. I just don't know. This was obviously thrust upon all of us in this department in such a short time. I've kind of joked that I feel like I'm in a blender. So that's not really something I can spend a lot of time thinking about right now because there's much work to be done, and I'm really trying to focus on that.
Right. How would you describe the Fresno Police Department culture?
I love it. I'm biased, of course, but I've never worked anywhere else as an adult. And I can just tell you from day one, starting out here as a 16-year-old police explorer, even just as a 19-year-old police cadet, I felt nothing but acceptance. Obviously, that was back in the 90s. I started when there were a lot of police officers who were first hired in the 70s, but I've never been anything but mentored by a fantastic group of men and women as time has gone on to just excel in this department. I feel like we have a great culture amongst our staff, that we're not all best friends necessarily, but everybody puts the mission first. That's one of my things too, is you're never bigger than the mission. And I think we have a good culture of that around here. People know that they have a job to do, that's to protect the city or whatever their particular assignment is, and they get it done.
And what is the biggest thing that you think the department needs to improve upon?
Our service levels. We are fantastic at responding to emergencies. Our response time citywide averages well under 8 minutes. That's pretty good if you look at other cities in particular. But some of our non-emergency calls, like a prior burglary in which the suspect's no longer on scene or an auto theft, those can hold for, I think the last average I looked at was about 181 minutes. So we need some service improvements on the non-emergency side of things. And that also helps a lot of other areas if we're not just constantly call to call our patrol officers, and they have I'd like to have them be able to take a minute and talk to people on those emergency calls about what they did or what their actions were, explain themselves. We're still in just a very much of an emergency mode. We responded to not just, we received far many more, but we responded to about 450,000 calls last year. That's a lot, and the officers are busy. And I would love to be able to improve some of our service levels. I have ideas. Some of them are technology based, others are deployment based, and we're going to keep working on that.
How has your day-to-day workload changed now that you've been named interim chief?
I thought I was busy before because, let's be honest, a deputy chief's a 24/7 job. You take your phone with you wherever you go. You keep it on right there next to your bed because it is 24/7. God forbid an officer gets hurt or there's a major crime in the city that is very impactful. You need to know about it and you need to be able to respond. Well, it's even just amped up another level. So I will tell you, it penetrates every waking moment and every sleeping moment as well.
Does it give you more worry that now you're in charge of everything and everybody?
It's not worry, but it is a heavy responsibility. We have a group of people who are well trained, know their job, know what the expectations are, understand the mission. But this is a dynamic job, and they're out there. Our officers are making split-second decisions every minute of the day. And so, you have to trust them, but sometimes things go wrong. So you do worry about that in a sense, but that's what we do as police officers. The job is risky. You just manage the risk the best you can and try to serve the community as best you can and keep yourself safe.
Now, this department's been applauded. There's a significant reduction in violent crime, significant reduction in homicides.
Yep.
How do you keep that up? And is there anything that you want to implement now that at least you're interim chief that hasn't been done before?
Yeah, we have had great successes in violent crime, as you mentioned. I mean, we have 13 murders so far year to date. Last year we were right about the same, but it's a huge reduction from the year before. We had 74 murders for the year, a record for us. 74 murders the year before as well. So we're well below that this year and last year. So how to maintain that? How to maintain we have a 46% reduction in shootings this year over last year. And last year was a huge reduction over the year before in 2021. How do we keep doing that? Do more of what's working, less of what's not. What used to work was going out and sending officers to make a bunch of arrests, book people in jail. It doesn't work anymore. That's part of it, but we know now we focus more on intelligence-driven policing. We partner with other agencies, we partner with community groups. We really try to focus on what's important, who are the people committing the majority of the crime, focus our efforts on them. Partnering with the district attorney's office, our relationship with the jail has never been better, and we're able to target individuals who may be committing the most crimes and put our resources towards that and prosecution, not just arrests.
Now, is there something that you want to put your stamp on, now that, at least in this time period, who knows how it's going to last? You say, you know what, we used to do it this way, but now that I'm the chief, or at least the interim chief, I want to do it this way. So are there any kind of policies or any way that things in?
No, but to actually this question and the last question, traffic fatalities. We've had 13 murders, but we've had 30 traffic fatalities this year. And so we've done a really good job impacting that violent crime. But we also need to focus at the same time, while not letting up the gas on violent crime, also focusing on roadway fatalities. So that's something we do put a focus on, but it needs a renewed focus and new strategies on how we're going to address that.
Okay, you must have took my notes because that's exactly where I was going next. So how do you reduce traffic fatalities? Obviously pedestrian deaths around schools, I know, is a major emphasis, at least on some on the city council. So how do you handle that? How do you do that?
Well, I'm going to admit one of the things I least liked doing as a police officer was writing citations. But the truth is that enforcement does work. It does change driving behavior. And the years that we had the fewest fatalities in the city of Fresno was we had the most robust motor or traffic enforcement units. And so we're at about 36 officers right now working 7 days a week traffic. Our patrol officers also do it, and some of our other special units also enforce traffic. But really, that's one of our key ways to ensure traffic safety. It's one of the complaints I get the most when I talk to the public is about the wild drivers out there, disregarding basic safety rules, distracted driving, red light running. So our traffic unit, we just added 5 more to it. So the numbers are good. Our citations are up. Collisions overall, injury collisions are down 7% year to date. So we're trending in the right direction.
So does that mean you put more officers on the street, or you have a visible patrol officer? I mean, do you write people if they're going 1 mile per hour over?
No.
Or, how do you do that when you see, obviously, a car maybe speeding a little bit? What's the difference between I'm going to pull them over and write them a ticket, or, I'm going to let that one go?
It's discretion. And the officers, it's with a lean towards enforcement because we know that gets the most change in driving behavior, but that's not where it stops. We partner with the Office of Traffic Safety. We have an $850,000 a year grant in which we perform like 58 operations a year for DUI, for pedestrian safety, bike safety, motorcycle safety. We also have another community engagement initiative with Office of Traffic Safety this year where we're showing up, our motor officers on their motorcycles are showing up at community events and talking about traffic safety, trying to get the message out there. We do first-time DUI drivers, they're offered what's called Decisions for Life, a class that they can attend. Our officers teach it, and it talks about, obviously, the dangers and the impact of driving under the influence. So it's not just enforcement. We know enforcement does work, but we definitely want to be on the community engagement side and offer education about what are the impacts of DUI driving, for instance, or here are the rules of the road. Some people just aren't that familiar with them. So we try to be balanced in our approach with traffic, but enforcement does work.
58 operations, that sounds like a lot, but that's kind of just a little bit more than once a week. Mm-hmm. So, what does it look like in the future? Is it just you increase those operations, you have more officers, maybe you take them from one unit? How do you balance, the traffic operations, increasing that because that's what the public wants, versus all the other things that Fresno Police do?
Like you mentioned, the balance. Once in a while, we have an operation which we involve other special units. We do that on a regular basis. So we try to balance. Their normal focus may be violent crime, but on occasion we can focus them over towards traffic, and just not ever letting any one get too far ahead of the other. So we have a finite number of resources. We partner with, obviously, Office of Traffic Safety. We partner with California Highway Patrol. We do operations together. The street racing is a very big topic for us right now. Something that we have a 10-person team that works on that, and regular traffic issues as well. So we're doing everything we can, and we're drawing in other aspects of the department when we can, without detracting from some of those other goals, like keeping violent crime reductions.
The department's budget, $250 million. Do you know how much goes towards traffic and DUI enforcement?
Well, all of our overtime operations, the operations I mentioned, are grant funded. So pretty much the general fund goes to pay for salaries. Right.
And for DUI enforcement, how do you get more? You say it's more enforcement to get more DUI drivers off the road, but is there a problem area either in the city or general areas? I mean, I know coming up, the July 4th holiday is probably a big.
That's
concern.
Not one of our bigger holidays, to be honest. People prefer to stay home. It's not one of our bigger. DUI is a problem every day, all day. Let's just put it that way. People are drinking or impaired one way or another, whether it's pills or cannabis or alcohol, around the clock. But I can't even remember. Can you restate? Because I had something I wanted to say.
Is there one area of town or one period of time, or maybe areas near bars at 2 a.m.?
Yeah.
Where are the DUI problem spots, and is there a better, more efficient way to get these drivers off the road?
Actually, we do focus on some of the bars, but really DUI is just a problem of people drinking at home or drinking anywhere and driving. Bars are a focus, but not the focus. One of the other things we did this year was we started training our patrol officers on recognition of DUI. As you know, we've hired quite a few new officers, and we want to make sure they're trained adequately how to recognize a DUI driver when they stop one. And so on almost a weekly basis, our traffic officers have been training and offering training to patrol officers to come in and build their skills and keep their skills fresh as far as recognizing DUI driving, so we can take enforcement action when they identify it.
And does the data show that there's like a certain place in town or a certain time of day where it's more of a problem, and maybe you put your resources there?
I don't have that for DUI specifically, but obviously we keep a rolling record of what our top 10 collision intersections are. Like in our last 6-month rolling period, it's Blackstone and Shaw, Fresno and Shaw, and Olive and Fresno. There were 7 collisions in each of those intersections in the rolling 6-month period. So those are just 3 of the top intersections. So those are how we deploy our traffic resources, is based on where the most collisions are.
So you just put more officers there?
That's just where they're deployed to do enforcement, yeah.
Right, and has it been working?
Yeah, obviously collisions are down 7% overall. Injury collisions, that's not insignificant when you're talking about a city this size.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your background. So you grew up in Fresno?
Crothers.
Crothers? Where'd you go to school?
Crothers High School, just like Margaret Mims.
And you went to Fresno State?
A little bit. My degree is an online degree.
Okay. So what got you interested, what did your parents do growing up, and what got you interested in police work?
Well, my family's self-employed. My mom has had a beauty shop my entire life, and my family overall is farmed. So I grew up out in the country, FFA president, thought that's the direction I was going in high school, until I went on a ride along with Mayor Dyer's sister, who my mom happened to know, and that was all she wrote. That was my decision-making factor, was that first ride along.
And what was it? What was that changed your life?
It just, the opportunity to make such a difference in other people's lives, to be the one that comes when someone needs help and they're calling 911. Obviously, you can't change the world, you're one person, but that little saying, you can change the world for one person, it's true. When people need you and you're the one to come and at least bring some calm to the chaos and help, at least in the slightest bit, to give someone a little bit of peace or relief or whatever, if it's domestic violence or it's a disturbance, it's a good feeling to be able to make an impact in people's lives.
And did you grow up in a big family, or?
Very little.
Yeah, brothers, sisters?
Stepsister, that's it. Yeah, pretty small family.
And then you became a cadet or explorer?
Yeah, at about 16 years old.
Right. And what did you learn as a cadet or explorer, then a cadet, and that trajectory of your career?
Yeah, no, just going on ride-alongs. That's one of the main things you do as an explorer. There's volunteer opportunities that we did, like fingerprinting kids was one of the biggest one. But it earned you the opportunity to go on a ride-along. Pretty much, I don't remember if it was every week or every month, but it was periodically, because typically the rules are the same. You can only go on one ride-along per year right now. Well, that was a way that you could go on more ride-alongs. And I learned very quickly, to make yourself valuable to the officer you were riding on, because as I was around more, I learned how to fill out forms. Obviously, there were paper forms at the time, and to be helpful. And so I learned a lot being out there with the officers, and then just the more I saw, the more I wanted to do it. I mean, I still, to this day, I've been a staff officer for a while now, been working inside jobs. The officers out there doing this street work amaze me. I look at these calls even on the computer during the day when I'm in my office, and they are just a mess. And I think, oh my gosh. And they go out there and they wade through it, and they sift through everything, and they figure it out. And it's amazing to me. I mean, truly, the things that they do, your average police officer is pretty high functioning. Just that they can work through complicated, complex situations and come to a closure. So
your husband also works in the department. Are there a lot of married couples who work in police work together?
A fair number. Yeah, I don't know if it's a lot, but a fair number.
So you're not the only ones in Fresno Police?
Definitely not, or any agency in the nation.
And did you guys meet in the department?
Yes. Yep. We met as field training officers, and we knew each other for a couple years, and we didn't start dating until we were both sergeants, maybe 2 years later.
Right. And I'm sure you know the name Casto. And we kind of joked about this before, but I'm sure you've been called Castro plenty of times.
It's okay. I'm called Mandy too. It doesn't bother me.
Right. And finally, in your mark here, what's been kind of the hardest part about being a police officer in your 27 years now, and what do you want to do before you leave, you retire?
The hardest part has been watching over the last couple of years when this profession's been demonized. I'm not Pollyanna. I don't think every police officer is perfect, and not every decision or action that officers take is ideal. But man, the vast majority of officers are really out there trying to do a good job, and they're doing it under difficult conditions, without all of the information, under split seconds. And it was really sad to see what happened to the profession over the last couple of years. But I think, there were some good things that came out of it. We had to look at ourselves and do things a little bit different. There were improvements that could be made. I think they have been. And I think we're well on the way to healing that rift between the public and police, at least in this community. I mean, this community, I want to be clear, is amazing support for our department. I never take that for granted, because I don't think it's quite like this in other large cities. I've only worked here, but I mean, just from what I see in the news and following current events, I think we have it really good here. Not to say everyone loves us, but I think we do a good job for the community, and the community appreciates it for the most part. And that's really important to me, to keep building on that.
And what are your goals before you leave police work?
Before I leave police work, gosh, that's a good question, David. I don't know if I'm going to have a good answer, because it's so broad. Obviously, we're doing well right now. I want to keep us moving in the right direction, and I want to make sure that that we just don't head in the wrong direction. We don't want to go extreme one way or the other. And I think that's something I'd have to sit down and make notes and really do some soul searching. What do I exactly want to see? This job is so busy on a day-to-day basis. You're making just so many decisions, and in the end, is it steering this department in a positive direction or a negative direction? And overall, you just want it to be positive as you work through those daily problems and make directions and decisions.
Chief Casto, thank you so much for the time.
You're welcome.